Okay, so this is the Norwich base, East Anglian Air Ambulance. The charity was formed in 2000. This is the EC-145 helicopter. We have 2 pilots and a paramedic and a doctor. And at the base here we work 7 in the morning till 7 at night. And then overnight we have a doctor and paramedic that work by car. So we cover the east of England, which is 6 counties: Norfolk, Cambridge, Suffolk, Bedfordshire, Hertfordshire and Essex. 7,500 square miles and 5.2 million people. So that's the population we cover. We have an aircraft here and an aircraft at Cambridge, and there's other charities. So we do have Magpass and the Essex and Hart Air Ambulance. So in total there can be five aircrafts working during the day, and then there is cover at night. So we have 3 control rooms in the ambulance service: one at Norwich, one at Chelmsford and one at Bedford, and they all have the same CAD system. So the 999 calls go into all 3 control rooms, and whoever's not busy will take the 999 call. They will then drop onto a dispatch desk and the nearest ambulance is sent to the emergency call. Following this, we then have the critical care desk, which is situated in Chelmsford, and that's got a critical care paramedic and a dispatcher on it. Their job is to look through over 3,000 calls that come in a 24-hour period, and then they're trying to find the jobs that would be suitable for a critical care paramedic, which could be me from home, or indeed an aircraft. They'll send the nearest aircraft or the nearest critical care paramedic to any serious jobs. The way that the calls are dispatched there's a number of ways. So firstly, we have a automatic dispatch, so anything that comes in like a fatality, a drowning, something involving a paediatric, any major incidents, they are what's known as an automatic dispatch. So despite what's going on at the scene, they will send us straight away. The next calls that come in are from our crews. So our crews will get on scene, the ambulance crews. They will get a serious incident, and I think they need critical care or a heart team. They will contact our critical care desk and request us. We will get a call come through on the phone. We'll take basic details on the grid reference, 6-figure grid reference, and then one pilot will come out and start the aircraft up and contact our tower and let them know that we're on an alpha call. So an alpha call for the aircraft trumps everything else, so they will stop aircrafts coming in, divert them to let us through. So it's a bit like going out on blue lights if you're on an ambulance or a fire engine. So the alpha call will go out and we will get priority to go through. Once the grid's put in, they will lift and put us on autopilot, and quite often it will take us to the scene or nearby the scene, depending on how accurate the details are. Our job then is to come out and safely get into the aircraft. So once the aircraft's running, we can't approach the aircraft or come in within what's known as the disc, which the pilots will explain to you, other than if we've had authority, and the authority is a thumbs up from the pilots to say that you can come in. And that's purely because the blades can drop down low in the initial startup, which could put us at danger of getting hit if the wind's blowing. So we only come in once they say so. It's they're in charge of the helicopter, and safety is paramount. Then we'll take off and we'll go to the job, and we'll be getting updates on the way there, and we'd never really decide where we're going to land until we get there, and then the pilots will do a recce of the scene. We'll do 2 orbits and then we will land. Okay, so once we land on scene, the rotors will be shut down completely, and we should never be walking in this area unless the rotors are shut down. Certainly do not come past the front of the aircraft in any more than the 10 to 2 position without authority from the pilots. The back doors are held closed by 3 catches, one here and one here. And it's the pilot or the paramedic or the doctor's responsibility to make sure they're shut before takeoff. So it wouldn't be an expectation of any fire crew to be shutting the back doors there if we was doing a load. So if we come into the back, normally whilst we're sorting out the patient, we'll inform the pilots of what's going on, and they will get our stretcher ready. So Steve, if you want to come in and take the stretcher off. Yeah. So just need to make sure the wheels are locked. So green locked, orange locked, and the stretcher comes off, and we'll bring it normally away from the aircraft, and then we'll prepare it. So what we need to do is just take off the bridge. Okay, we'll lift off that, and we'll walk away with that. That then allows us to take our bags off and the patient can go on there. And inside here we'll have a normal scoop and a blizzard blanket, so that will keep the patient warm. We have a scoop and head blocks in there. These bags will then go into the back of the aircraft to be at hand during the flight. Depending on the time it's going to take us to get to hospital will be depend on whether we fly or go by ambulance, and I think that's a decision made on the day, and that depends on whether the hospital has their own helipad, so we're right outside the door. An example of that may be King's Lynn or Great Yarmouth, or if we've got to go to a major trauma centre like Addenbrooke's, it might be a benefit to go there and take that extra 15 minutes. We will make our decision on where we go, and likewise depends on where we land the aircraft. If we can land the aircraft close to the patient, or whether we need to do a transport. Whenever you walk around the back of the helicopter, obviously you need to consider people that are tall people or even normal sized people are going to smack their head, so just be very cautious of that. So keep down, and in the back here everything has to be secured within the aircraft when we're flying, and within here we have we're doing a trial at the moment where we're using trial and blood. So within the back of here is our blood, and it's a controlled trial, so you get a choice of some have blood, some have normal saline. We also have our chest trauma kit, so if we need to if someone's got a penetrating chest injury, we have a trauma kit that we can open a chest on the side of the road if we need to get to the heart. And we then have a Lucas machine, which is something that you will be familiar with for those that have done co-responding, and that's an automatic chest compression machine. And we then have things like our packaging bag and our splints bag, so we can sort of put a Benicast splint on someone with a fracture and provide a temporary cast before they get to hospital. Whenever we transport a patient, we will always, if there's risk of them going into cardiac arrest, we'll put the Lucas on them and have it ready to go. So if a patient goes into cardiac arrest, the first thing we'll do is inform everybody in there, and we'll inform the pilots that we have a patient in cardiac arrest. There's not an immediate need to land, so we can defib in flight, but the problem is it's just really around communication. It makes it's difficult in flight, but we will then update our control room, who will inform the hospital. With regards to loading the patient, what may happen is we may ask you to assist us load the patient, but normally you will not be around this area unless accompanied by the pilot or a member of the aircrew. So we will sometimes, if it's muddy, have the stretcher out to here, just have it sitting on the back, and we will load the scoop stretcher into here, and that's where it becomes difficult, into here, and then the pilot will load the patient on. So there may be a requirement to come around and do this, but not unless you're accompanied by a member of the crew. The big things to watch out are these doors are very flimsy, so no touching the doors, no leaning on the doors, and no bending the doors back or anything like that, so be very careful with those. And just work around here is quite low, so just be careful of that. We don't normally tend to shut down on the beach, but there will be occasions when we will do what's known as a hot load, and that is an example of that was we had the other day a patient that was having a heart attack on the beach. When we got there, we were completely ready and packaged to go, and we went, and with the Coast Guard we loaded the patient into the back with the rotors running. Okay, a rare occasion, but just need to be careful in that situation. It's very loud, you cannot communicate, and you just need to be guided in by people and not be wandering around the back of the aircraft or really stepping any further than here past the aircraft. So that's known as a hot load. Not something we do very often because there is added risk to that, but something that you may be involved in.
I'm Steve, one of the pilots with the East Anglia Ambulance. This is a 145 helicopter. It's quite capable. To land this, we need an area during the day of what they call 2D, so that's twice the length and twice the width of the helicopter. So basically we need 28 metre area to land in during the day. At night it then becomes 4D by 2D, so we need somewhere that's 56 by 28 metres to land in. That's legal, that's a minimum we can land in. Obviously some of the most important things that we can't always see from the air is any wires that may be going overhead. So if you see us coming to land and you see some wires about, just sort of run out and stand underneath the wires, because obviously we're not going to land on you. If you're underneath the wires, we won't land on the wires. So that's one of the most important things we're looking out for. Once we're on the ground, when it comes to approaching the aircraft, if there's somebody inside the aircraft, don't come inside the disc area, the area of the rotors, until you get a thumbs up from them. So make sure you give them a thumbs up. Once you get a thumbs up back, then they're happy for you to go in there. Always try to approach from the front of the aircraft, and if the rotors are going, never walk downhill towards the aircraft, because then that minimises your disc towards the rotors, always walk uphill, and then you get the maximum distance between yourself and the rotors. The weather limits we can fly to, during the day we need a 500 foot cloud base and 1 kilometre visibility. We do HEMS flying at night. We land with night vision goggles, and we've also got a large searchlight on the front of the helicopter like the police use, so we can use the light and the night vision goggles to land. Obviously at night we do need a bigger space. If we land in a rural area, it's fine, we can land in a 56 by 28 metre minimum space. If we land in a town or a city though, we need something at least the size of a football pitch to legally land in, just because of the extra dangers involved of landing in cities. Thinking about if you ever have to come to us because we've crashed, there's a few obvious dangerous areas, like if everything's still running, obviously there'll be hot exhaust gases coming out. The exhaust gases come out of this at about 600 degrees, so make sure you stay well clear of any engines if they are still running. Obviously the blades are still turning, they're dangerous. If we're, for example, on the side and the blades are smashed up, be very wary, because they are carbon fibre blades, there'll be carbon fibre splinters in there, and they can be quite long. If you walk into one without seeing it, it could cause you quite a lot of injury. The fuel tanks in this, there's about 800 litres of fuel in this when it's full, and the fuel tank's all in the belly of the helicopter. So if you are cautious about a fuel leak, just be aware that all the tanks are in the belly of the helicopter below floor level. There's nothing higher up at all. And obviously if the blades are going, also watch out for the tail rotor, because it spins a lot faster than the main blades, so it's very difficult to see when it is turning the tail rotor blades, so make sure you don't go anywhere near the tail rotor if everything's still turning. The battery, if you ever do need to disconnect the battery for any reason, is situated in this panel up here below the right hand engine. All you do to get to it is dead easy. Undo the 3 catches, open the door, there's your battery. To disconnect the battery, you just undo the grey catch, pull it off, and that's the battery disconnected. There's now no power going to the aircraft.